Hello everyone and welcome back to the final video in Lee's R&D session number 5, where he has been looking at both custom random noise generators as well as custom noise routines based off of proven algorithms for value, Perlin, and simplex. So in this video here, kind of as our goodbye to everyone for this session, Lee's going to spend a few minutes and play around with the new dialog that he has put together, the new GUI, in order to show you guys how easy it is to get a look that you're looking for, and then you can take those numbers and apply them in your code for whatever it is that you are looking to have some sort of animated noise for. So with that, Lee, I'll turn it over to you for a few minutes.
Yep. It's been a long road, but we're finally here. Now it's time to kind of play with what we've got. If we right click, and it's like, oh, we've got our options. So we can switch over to value. We can switch to Perlin. And we've got our simplex. We're going to play with simplex because it's just so cool. I'm going to dial down our octaves and show the difference. So we can go all the way down to a single octave. But as we're going down with our octaves, you notice that everything's getting darker, which is why we have our gain slider. This is going to control our exposure, which allows us to adjust how bright or exposed our image is going to be. So another thing that controls kind of the value is, we missed something. Persistence, its slider number is off.
Yes, I see that.
Yeah, it's probably because I misspelled it.
I'm sure.
So we'd have to adjust that number a little bit. But basically, if we take our persistence and we adjust it, as we move more to the left, we end up darkening up things as well.
Is it doing anything, Lee?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay.
But I have to have more octaves for it to show up.
Okay, good deal.
So as we're sliding it, this is probably going into the negative numbers. So now as I bring it higher and higher, because center is 0.
Mm-hmm.
So as I go to the right, we're getting the positive. We could see that if I actually had it. But as we go closer to 2, we have to dial gain back down. As we get closer to about here, which it should be about 1, we have to dial gain up to about 1. And I'm fighting with lag here, so bear with me. There we go. About 1 to get something there. Now, octaves is the number, as we've explained before, is the number of passes through the noise generation, so we can get different sizes of noise. The size of noise between each level is controlled by the lacunarity. Though it is interesting when I slide this why these are disappearing. So gain works fine. Lacunarity is disappearing on me. Let's check frequency too. If we dial frequency down, wow, see that?
Yeah.
They're disappearing. Okay. Cease playtime, back into Visual Studio, or here and see what's going on. Back into Unity. So if I right click, everything's there.
Why don't you go ahead and select the noise tech in the hierarchy, and yeah, you can switch that back as well, just so we can watch numbers over in the inspector.
Yeah. So if I adjust frequency, yeah, they are disappearing from there. All right. So something in the code is not happy. And gain, okay, so frequency, lacunarity, that's right. Persistence, that is right. And Checking on my side. No, all of that looks right. I have no idea why it's disappearing at the moment. Oh, I know something. I know what it is.
Is it because it's so
Yes,
large that it just
because
simply...
I'm getting such a fine number,
Right.
and I need to take all the floats and force them down in the number of digits of precision that I'm displaying. So I'll just add F2 in here. So that should take care of that. That was kind of throwing me for a loop there for a sec. It's like, oh, what is going on?
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, good. Now we're good. Now we can build it out. Or we could just play with it in the
We
editor.
can just play with it in the editor.
Okay. So, yeah, we're just sliding to the point where we had such a fine number that it couldn't display. It was just dropping that part off. All right. So, octaves is going to control how many times through our noise that we're going. Lacrinarity, and what do I have my lacrinarity maxed to? 0.1 to 32. But for some reason, I think I've got that dialed incorrectly here. So lacrinarity goes 0.1 to 1. This needs to be 32. So I can show what it does. It's late. All right, so we've already discussed octaves. I'm going to dial it down a bit. Now, lacrinarity basically controls the difference in spacing. So if I've got, let's do it with 2 octaves. And let me boost up the gain a bit so we can see what's going on. Not that much, but this will probably be easier for me to dial in a number. So a gain of 1. So with 1 octave at a noise or a frequency of 0.2, I've got this type of noise. Now, if I take my lacrinarity, which is currently set at 14, let me set it down to 1. And then I set my octaves to 2. So I'm doubling up my octaves. Everything got a little bit brighter, but the noise is about the same size for both layers because the lacrinarity is not changing between iterations. If I take my lacrinarity and bump it up to, say, 15, now I've got one layer of noise that is that higher frequency noise. And I've got another layer that's being blended in, which is much larger or zoomed in a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
So it has that soft number. If I take lacrinarity and bump it up to, say, 50, the effect is even more apparent. So if I go down to, say, something like 2, now the first pass of noise is at the 0.2 frequency, and the next noise is going to be double that with a lacrinarity of 2. So we end up with something that looks like this. If I take my frequency and I start increasing it towards 1, our noise gets higher and higher as far as the frequency of it, or the perceived dots are much, much smaller. If I take frequency and dial it down, I can start to blur out the whole image, which gives us a different look. Now, with persistence of 1.8, my second layer of noise is adding in a lot of effect to it. But if I dial it down below 1, that second layer of noise is starting to bleed off and have no effect, to the point where I hit 0 and it has no effect whatsoever. And then I start going below 0 and it's got an inverse effect to it, which in of itself has a neat little look to it. And I wanted to show this, that if I dial it down between -1 and -2, and then I take my step size, which is my animation speed, and I dial that down to something a little bit slower, and I take my frequency and I bump that up just a little bit, I get something that looks like specular highlights off the surface of water. So you could use something like that. If I take, let's say, my persistence and we crank that closer to about 0.8, I take my octaves and go with about 4, take my frequency, drop it down fairly low, take my lacrinarity, go even lower. I can turn this off as well. Then we get more of this little crawling texture. So there's a lot of flexibility that we can get.
Make me a lava lamp.
You want the lava lamp. I knew that was
lamp.
coming. Oh yeah, we forgot about that. We haven't even played with this stuff. We can shift the colors. So I can adjust this if I can grab it. It's not working.
It's not moving.
Yeah, you know why? Because there's more stuff I forgot to do.
I was wondering.
Well, how come you never say anything, when it could be useful?
Oh, okay.
We need to assign our GUI texture .color the value that we calculate with our color.
Right. Actually, I was wondering that right now. I didn't think about it until you started trying to move it, and it's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like on. All right, so let's see. If we shift our colors now, did it pick up? Did it not compile? Did I not save? Which of the thousands of errors did I mess up now? All right, so GUI texture.color. So that's built. There we go. It just didn't compile.
Yeah.
Something else that's interesting. Why is this alpha? There, but all right. So some really sick color of orange.
It's awesome. Flying into the sun.
Yeah, but it gets really fun when I start adjusting some of these settings. I mean, after you play with it, you can get some really cool looks. So if I dialed on my octave so we're not completely blown out, let's say let's dial our frequency down just a little bit more. Yeah, about there. Let's take lacrinarity down. Well, I can't get it. Not with the response I'm getting on this side.
Right, yeah, you're suffering lag pretty bad.
So 1.34. My frequency should be about 0.149. Persistence, let's do -1.263. And gain needs to get increased a whole lot.
Cool.
Which is why we have the ability to increase gain so much. So, all right. Let's see. Black 1, 3, 4. Not exactly where I want it to be, though. And
There, we're getting a little closer.
yeah, I missed a 0 in here. There we go. There we go. This one's my favorite. This is the one that I put on my desktop and just let it go.
That's just cool.
But once you start playing with it, there are tons and tons of different effects that you can get. It's kind of fun, though, is you can take this one and switch it to Perlin. So Perlin does pretty much the same thing. Looks
pretty close.
Yeah, a little bit different. Runs a bit slower.
Mm-hmm.
Here's value.
It's like a burning piece of paper. Whoa.
Yep. But you can definitely see
the grids. Yep.
Yep. Which is why one animation value, while faster, is probably not the one you're going to go to. It just doesn't look quite as good.
Right. That's fantastically good stuff.
This one's still my favorite. I love Simplex with this one. Just let it rod. It's just too much fun.
Well, Lee, I just wanted to say, fantastic job on Session 5. So we're going to get to see some of this now get implemented into some of the MMO R&D stuff, huh?
Oh, this was for the MMO? I did this just because it was fun.
Uh-huh.
No, actually, this is going to be useful in a couple of different places. Some of the next stuff that we're going to be getting into is going to be the terrain sculpting.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we're going to have is going to be a noise brush. So that noise brush is going to rely on our noise for generating the noise for that brush. Then we start looking at some cool stuff like, maybe clouds for our sky, which could use this system. The grass and foliage for our terrain will use this system. Some of the animation or the AI stuff for things like monsters when they start wandering around will probably rely in part on the noise system and the random numbers just to mix things up. So the use of noise just goes beyond a visual lava lamp.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
but the lava lamp's still cool.
Yes, it is. Especially the orange on black.
Yeah, it's very pretty. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to conclude Session 5 of Lee's R&D with, once again, custom random noise generation and custom random noise. That's awesome. I mix it all together. Custom random number generators and custom random noise generators. Yeah, there we go. That'll work. Anyways, thank you all very much, and that's it. Bye.
Later.